Hello, the game has started. It's me to go first. I've got quite a nice rack, but too many R's, so I don't have a bingo. Is there a way of getting rid of 2 R's? And I'm not sure there is. Well, fairer perhaps, 424. And I have Warrison, which plays in column 9, and also row G. I didn't totally love the play of fairer because one option would have been exchanging 2 R's or 2 R's and an F and leaving a very good 4 or 5 letter set. But I think the score for fairer just won me over. And certainly this is a good pick. Yup takes an S. Now I have Warrison here. Is this the best spot? 79 points, which is better than column 10. I don't have the play in row I, so I think so, unless there's a bingo through the A, and I'm not seeing it. Well, no bingo here, and it's a matter of sorting out the duplicates. Gig he is good, onto an E. That would leave a vowel heavy rack leave. So no obvious candidate plays which sort the rack out in one. But I think this rack is too good to change. All of my consonants can go above the I of Warrison. I think sorting out the duplicate I is quite important. And I can do that with Vidya, 28 for opponent. Vidya leaves P and H, but I think there is some synergy there, so although I would ordinarily aim to leave only one scoring tile, I think Vidya has the advantage of splitting up G and I, but are there other alternatives, in particular through the V? Vidya isn't going to score very much. Well, 27 points, and not a great rack leave, but I'm not seeing anything else which is better. I am going with this. Well, I guess I'm grateful to see the I and the Y, but a non-bingo rack. I do have the ing ending, and there's a floating I and floating E which could be useful. Yeah, I could play yeah through that E for quite a decent score. But can't see a 4-letter play in that spot. I have wiping through the I, but that's going to leave HY. Surely I can have a better rack leave than that. I have hyping on my rack as a 6, which would certainly sort the rack out. Yup only takes an S. Ner takes L, R and S. Oi takes a Z, so that's quite a hot spot for that tile. Wow, great bingo by opponent. And, well, opponent has supplied a spot for hyping. Let me just see what this scores. 45 points, keeping W and H, which do have synergy. Is there anything better than this? Let me just put this back. There are some vowels available, in particular the A. Do I have a double-double? Yes, I do. I have Yorping. And that's 64 points and retains the H. So definitely a better play. I'm going with this. Great, I draw the first blank, and the rest of the rack not too shabby. I'm wondering about isthmic. I think that's good, which would play in row B. What else is available? And do I have anything through the H? Well, opponent's taken that out. So if isthmic is good, do I want to look further? I don't think so. Let's see if this stays on. And it does. Fantastic. And I now have a 130-point lead. Not a great rack, but some balance and scoring tiles. I'd like to turn over tiles because there's nothing great here to hang on to, and there's still a blank to come. Plus, there's only 40 tiles left, so given my lead, it would be good to expedite the end of the game. Wow, great score by opponent. And it makes me wonder, well, no, Isthmic wouldn't have stayed in that spot and the blank was an S, so I don't think I had any column 12 bingos. Now, 33 tiles in the bag. What can I do? My K could go after the C for a decent score if I could get the play doubled. Not seeing a way of doing that, although I do have duck. All the W's have gone, otherwise Wayfarer would have been playable. Row H not particularly hot, given the double letter squares being covered. So 2 S's to come. I have Curta on my rack. Let me see what that scores. 18 points with a rubbish rack leave. I would have thought that I can do better than that. I don't have a vowel for going to the left of the F. What about going to the right? Well, my A can go there. No, not seeing anything. Gaku is good, which would leave a better rack leave. What about this sneaky spot over here next to the E of Voider? So Keg would score 28, and the rack leave isn't terrible. Still the U to come. Tile turnover isn't essential. Both blanks have gone. This takes out a spot opponent could play. But do I have a longer play which uses the W? Well, I do. I have raked. 37 points. It is opening up column 1, but a high-scoring tile can't go on the double letter square, so that's not disastrous. Yeah, I am going with this. And I draw the Q to go with the U, which I retained. I have Souk on my rack. I have Quest. I have Squeg. That's nice. Does that play anywhere? I don't think it does. Not at the moment. But I should have options with this rack. And I have a decent lead, 100 points. Remaining tiles quite bingo-y and the board is quite open. So if opponent got a bingo or back-to-back bingos, he could be breathing down my neck. So he doesn't bingo this turn, 28 points. I could play Quag here, retaining the S for Quags. If opponent plays in column 14, I'll have access to column 15. The score is the main attraction. I have Squib in row C, which, well, it burns the S, so I'm not doing that. This is quite a good rack leave, and there are 7-letter lanes on the board. But with Q and U, there's always a possibility that there's a 60 or 70 point play, in which case Quag is hugely inferior. I could play Souk in row N, 34 points. That's not better than Quag. No O for Quango. No, I am going with this. Well, that looks quite nice, but I'm not seeing a 7 and not too many floaters to consider. I think it's just the N of relaunch. Wow, opponent does bingo, 70 points, so my lead now just 45 points. Fortunately, the bag looking less bingo-y with JV, X and V. No S's and blanks. Can I hang on? So, what to do here? I have M and O. For going after O, I'd quite like to play off both B and M, but I don't have to. The attraction is score. Let me check the remaining vowels. 8 out of 24, that's not many. So I could play Limbo for 20. What is better than that? Now I note that the Z spot for Oh Yes is still available. If opponent gets that, he could be drawing level. Is there a bingo through this I? There isn't. I could play Belitai. B-moils, M-boils don't work. Well, only 20 points. I feel I ought to be doing better with scoring tiles. Takes an E. So the best I can do in row C is met. 27 points, 7 more points. Keeping bossed rather than est. And denying opponent that spot. The I is a useful bingo floater, so I think Limbo does have merit. I am going with this. Well, pretty good. And there's still the Quags hook. So, do I have anything with the C? I don't. Is there a 7? Tinas, entrees and ratines. Well, Noselight takes an S. Wow. I have a bingo in column 14, which might just be enough to get me over the line. Any other lanes? Row D isn't a lane. AW not particularly useful. Noselight has taken out the hooks in relaunch. L is available, but that requires vowel, vowel, vowel. And I don't have a play there. Great. So, it was lower down. Entrees, ratines and tinas all end in S. I don't think there are any other options. So, which is best? Well, it's got to be entrees. It's the only one which doesn't put a vowel next to this triple word square. Entrees for 68. Wow, look at this. I have 5 vowels on my rack. The remaining 11 tiles contain no vowels and no Ys. Wow. That is an amazing sight. You don't see that very often from this far out. 11 consonants, brutal. So that does guarantee me the win. And I read a recent comment by somebody who attended the World Cup in Chicago. It was on another matter, but he was basically saying that vowels are much more valuable than consonants in the end game, and I think this massively illustrates why early on in the game you would be looking at a 5 vowel rack, thinking that you'd be looking to play off a couple of vowels for a low score and hope that you didn't draw any more, so it wouldn't be an attractive rack, but in this particular circumstance, this rack is fantastic. So, do I have the possibility of going out in 2? Entrees has got 3 successive consonants. I was just checking if Toa worked. So I do have Oh Dear in this spot for 26. Can I go out with ATA? I have Tal in row J, that's 1 out. Do I have a second? I have Gator in column 11, so I do. I'm going with this. Ah, well, of course, there were tiles in the bag, and I've drawn one of them. And fortunately, I have the R for res, which is very fortunate because I was planning to go out with my rack as it was. So opponent does now have his final 7 tiles, and they are grim. His best play may well be just to block my res spot by playing AN and NE, unless I have another huge Z spot. So where else does the Z play? Well, it plays between the E's of nose light and entrays, so I have zeta in that spot. Well, that's going to stick a vowel in the open, which I don't wish to do. Opponent may well take that spot, which is great because it would leave alone res rather. Well, opponent does spot that jolly good Z place. Probably had his eye on it himself. And has it truly gone? Yes, it has. So that's a shame. And if I played zeta, well, opponent could play Vant, which is massively better than anything he's currently got. Tays are not good. So how can I get rid of this Z? Can't see anywhere for Tsar apart from column 1 at face value. Maybe worth doing. What about playing across? Zia for 24. Am I going to go out with Art? Star in column 9. And Rat in row D. Well, it's possible both of those could be blocked. Tarn in column 10. So I do have an out with Zia. But is 24 really the best I can do? Well, do I have a play in row G? What if I play ZA for 17? Then I'm setting up ZA for 33, even though I'm not going out. Surely that's worth doing. Opponents simply can't block that. Yeah, I am going with this. Can opponent block it? Does he have a play beginning above our ending below? No, he doesn't. I'm going with this. So I'm not going out next turn, but 33 points is pretty decent. Opponent has next around these E's, but we'll still be left with a ton of consonants. I wonder if I had other setups available. If I'd played just our without the Z, I could have played Tsar and gone out. Well, that ship has flown. So I have Tsar for 33. Well, I couldn't have done that because then opponent could have put a consonant next to the A, so this plan is fine. Can I go out with RT? Right in column 9. And I'm now in this similar position to opponent. We're having only consonants. So we're competing for the vowels on the board. Turt, I think, has a sticky S. Let's confirm that. Yep. So, have I foolishly left myself unable to go out? So opponent with 7 consonants may end up going out ahead of me. I just need to find an out with RT. Let me do this a little bit methodically. Nothing has sprung to mind from my random review of the board. So I have R and T. Turt, not good. Yeah, well, I don't know if I've messed this up because Tsar and Tsar definitely scored well, but I can't go out with R and T that I can see. Can opponent go out with his T? He can with Tower, so why don't I go there? He's still got other spots to go out, but Tower for 7, I think, scores the most. And opponent now just with a T. He's got ST, he's got TET. So at least a couple of options. And all he needs is 1. Yeah. And the final score, 385 for my opponent, 518 for me, a winning margin of 133 points, so a huge, huge win. Let's see what I missed. Wow, what a game. Over 500 points, and opponent goes out despite having 7 consonants. Could I have done better? So it was me to go first. I had this rack. I played fairer, which looks fine. Opponent's rack plays yup, and I get off to a great start with Warrison. Warfarer also good, interesting. Now opponent's rack plays Voider, and this was a tricky one. B3, PHI, that's nice. Keeping double G. I split up the duplicates for a few fewer points, so I don't think there's very much between those plays. And a great bingo by opponent, which brings him to within just 5 points. I have Yorping for 64, so I'm back in the lead, and here is where all the vowels were. Opponent plays Who, and I have Isthmic, the only other bingo being Mitching onto the G. Interesting, which would have disrupted this S hook for Yorping, which opponent is able to use, but I suspect he would have had alternatives elsewhere. His rack was really good. Now, tricky rack. C3, Carrot coming down column 3. That's nice, 37 points. So I looked at the cross plays, and in fact this is the second one. I didn't consider the vertical ones. Opponent's rack plays Ooh, and I have Quag for 34. Great, glad to see there was nothing massively better there. Nice rack for opponent. Plays Nose Lights, and now there's just 45 points between us. I play Limbo for 20, I14. Embossed and Noselight for 41, burning the S, but 21 more points. I still don't like it. It's creating a very easy scoring spot in column 15 on a board which doesn't have many scoring spots. So I like Limbo. It left a good 3-letter set. A1, Omber. Yeah, Omber may well have been better. There's still a few E's to come. Opponent's rack plays J, and that's great because I have entrees, and I felt that that was the end of the game. I had a 100-point lead, and opponent, from my perspective, had 7 consonants. So opponent plays Dib. I play Oh dear. These are the 7 consonants opponent has. He plays An to block my high-scoring Z play. L13, Zeta, that's what I didn't want to do. It set up Vant. So I did this fancy setup play, which I'm not sure whether it paid off or not, since with most of these options I could have gone out into. Anyway, this was opponent's rack. Plays Tex. My rack. Interesting, so I could have gone out in 1 for 13 points, but I chose to get 33 for Tsar. Opponent gets 8, and now there is an out, K11. Grit through G and I. Wow, big miss. And opponent goes out with Tet. So, absolutely fantastic game. Always good to get over 500 points and also to have the game in the bag before the end. And certainly a very unusual tile distribution at the end with poor opponent dealing with 7 consonants on his rack. So many thanks to my opponent for a good battle. I hope you enjoyed watching that game and I will see you next time.